Hello and welcome to another edition of Scattered Thoughts, where person talking, Sky, it gives you my scattered thoughts if you give me 10 minutes or less. These are opportunities for me to share some of my thoughts, unedited, unscripted. I'll have some talking points, but opportunity to open up conversation for the community. I believe in civil discourse. I believe in having the opportunity to hear people out, even if it's people on the internet. Uh, last time you heard from us, if you haven't already checked it out, we talked a little bit about divinity and the nerf that's coming in season 19. If you have thoughts on that, please make sure to view that video, leave some comments on that video. But today we're going to talk about no mic. We're going to spend today's topic talking a little bit about no mic. So let's get started. One of the first things that really comes to mind when I'm thinking about like what I want to do with this channel, what I want to do with my place in the community and how I interact with people. Again, I've been doing a lot of solo queuing. I've been doing probably I've been in clans in and out over the years. I've been playing since Taken King, so I've been playing for a number of years. But the majority of those years, I've been solo queuing, right? Doing matchmade activities, doing a lot of things. But also, even if we're doing activities that are like a Legend Nightfall, a Grand Master, I think dungeons, even things that are pretty much not raids. A lot of times we'll go in to LFGs that say no mic, right? And it's always interesting to me to see the community outwardly have like a very like visceral, like a very like wild ass, reaction to the fact that like what you'll hear a lot, what you'll see on Reddit, please don't go on Reddit. What you see on Twitter, please don't go on Twitter. But when you see a lot of those forums when people are talking about the community, people like, oh, well, no one in the Destiny community likes to talk to each other, right? Or if you're not a clan, like it's just not the norm for people to use their mic. And for me, I really like to challenge the status quo on that, right? Rather than continuing to be in a space of, oh, everyone sucks, like, oh, these weird people, slurs. Sometimes people be using slurs. There's a lot of things we got to clean up in the community. Um, but people will oftentimes be in a space where, again, it's the hypocrisy for me, right? Um, how can you be in a space where you are um seemingly persecuting feels strong, but again, this is unscripted, but like persecuting, like really talking down on people who choose to be in LFGs or choose to be in interactions that don't require a mic, honestly. Like to do my 3 strikes for the pinnacle, the weekly pinnacle at reset, it doesn't require a mic. For me to do a lot of the dungeons, especially like the older dungeons, it doesn't require a mic. If you know what you're doing, it doesn't require a mic. um there's a lot of that going on, but then people will again talk down and say like, oh, people are weird, oh, do you have a mic, things like that. And for me, both from like an accessibility standpoint, but then also from a social standpoint, I really want to like address this head on, because my thing is like, we really have to tackle the inherent hypocrisy of that, right? The fact that, why aren't you asking the question of why aren't you actually digging deeper into why people don't want to use a mic, right? So point one, thinking about accessibility. There's a lot of people who have different accessibility needs. Um, People might have social anxiety. People have a lot of things going on. Like, whether it's like someone has some type of accessibility need, whether there's someone who just has social anxiety. I have social anxiety a lot because I get nervous in front of people. Um, Whether it's someone who's like I'm playing the game, but I'm also like, watching like, like there's another like household responsibility that's going on, so I can't actively talk, but I can play the game. Maybe they're like, doing something like that. There's a lot of opportunities where, and a lot of scenarios that make sense to not use a mic. So one, giving the consideration that before you go out and demonize somebody for wanting to join an LFG that's says no mic, or like people are in an LFG period, and just not using the mic. One, think about the circumstance. Like, take a moment, stop thinking about yourself, right? And think about like what could that person's reality be right now, right? And the fact that like even sometimes I'll be multitasking, right? I'll be on the phone with a friend. This actually happened to me recently. I was just trying to get my weekly pinnacles in on all three characters, and a friend who was in need and just needed someone to listen to them and talk to called me up, and I was gaming for like 2 or 3 hours, and the whole time I was doing all these match made activities, no mic, right? So you never know what people have going on in their daily lives. um but on the flip side, let's also be honest, is like, how often have we seen the memes? How often have we heard the stories? How often do we see the anonymized posts on Reddit or like these different platforms where people are talking about these super toxic experiences in these LFGs? And again, for those who don't know, I apologize if you're listening to this and you don't know what that is. Looking for groups, so it's just talking about matchmaking and going to a platform to find players to play with, right? Um, I myself, and again, this is something I want to talk about at a later time. I'm actually kind of working on a video right now. Um, but a lot of my experience in Destiny 1 was like very bad. People were just very intolerant. You had to be absolute perfection. You could not mess up at all. Like there was literal no tolerance. And the fact that like that culture that's gone on, and again, a lot of sweaty culture that came from like PvP in D1, as well as PvE. There's a lot of toxicness. It's never seemingly, and the reason why I really want to tease this out in this conversation today, and I love to hear folks' thoughts and comments and feedback. It hasn't gone away. Like it's this elephant in the room that we all acknowledge. Oh, there's just shitty LFGs. There's just a shitty culture there. But like oftentimes, outside of a few content creators that I myself support and watch, are really like calling it out, that the fact that like, okay, how about like we just not sit here and act like there isn't a toxic culture and that there aren't things that can be improved on, and actually start to work to actually build a community and improve, right? Because even now, like maybe you disagree with me, like I want to hear your thoughts, like again, as long as you're sharing your thoughts respectfully, like I want to see what different sides are, because for me, I'm personally really tired of being in a spot where I want to go um, and engage with people. Sometimes I have the social capacity, I have the social battery, I have the space, mental space to like want to talk to other people in the community, meet new people, meet new friends. Obviously, outside of people that are in my clan or that in Discord and other places I already know where I feel comfortable. And there are some days where I'm like, oh, I'd like to meet new people. And then 9 times out of 10, I'll join a LFG that's like, like it's just regular LFG and people are on the mic, and then someone's uh, being homophobic and using homophobic slurs. Someone's being transphobic. Um, Someone's being sexist and saying like something super wild about women. Like there's all these things that like for me, whenever I enter into those matchmaking opportunities, consistently happen. Even with raids, right? Raids, you basically have to, like, if you're gonna raid and you're not raiding with friends and you're doing it for matchmaking through an LFG, you have to use your mic, right? Which is understandable. You have to use your mic in certain situations. But the fact that like people just like offhandedly like say the R word, the C word, and we're not talking about people like cussing like ass, hell, damn, shit, fuck, like we're not talking about like cursing, like we're adults, cursing, but we're talking about people just using slurs. I've heard people talk about immigrants, like, like there's a lot of things out there. And for me, I think about what would it be like for us to be as a community in a practice of calling that shit out, like actually tackling that shit head on, rather than just sitting in this like muck, this ickiness of just like, oh, well, certain LFGs are just trash, or like, just find some friends, it's not always that easy to find, like to really branch out. But what I do think is um the challenge here is, how do you not just like exist when you know something fucked up is going on? How do you actually press beyond that? How do you actually like make our community better? I love this game. I love everything that we have, but we can always get better. Let me know your thoughts.